everyone. You're obviously confused and aroused.
Then where are we now? Do you have idiots on your planet?
It's me, Zoidberg, remember, from high school?
Hello, you're listening to the Slurmcast, a podcast for no reason. Today we will be discussing Futurama Season 2, Episode 14, Mother's Day, with your host, Tommy Roulette.
What's up?
Pete Woodward. That's me. And I'm Rick Horchie. Joining us today is our special guest, Martin Schneider. How's it going?
Things are good. How are you?
Good. Thanks for being on the show.
I'm glad to be here.
An extra thanks for being on the show last minute.
Oh, yeah.
Like we had a guest booked for months and they had to cancel unexpectedly, and you like a champ. We're just like, what do I need to listen to? What do I need to watch? Let's do it. I don't even like this show. Let's go.
Glad to help out. If I'm woefully inadequate, then you know why.
I know you're a good conversationalist, so that's really what's important.
That is my reputation.
I almost didn't watch this episode because I just almost forgot. Like, I usually watch it on Monday night. And then I had to waste my night going to Tom's dad's stupid wake.
Oh,
And,
he wasn't even there. Did you have the ashes there?
No.
I mean, so the whole thing was a sham. It's like, go eat a roast beef sandwich in the basement and watch people cry.
I thought about bringing them, but we didn't. He wants them spread, so I didn't. We didn't splurge for an actual urn, so they would have been in a cardboard box, and that would have just been weird.
You could have gift wrapped it. It's Christmas.
Oh my God! I didn't even think about that. That would have been awesome.
Yeah. You could still
I mean, not awesome. I mean, that's.
You could still do
That
that
would have
for
been
like the Christmas
awesome.
parties or
For
something.
your Christmas card, you should just put some in a little cellophane baggie and send everybody, you know.
No, I think that's like
super
something
illegal.
a terrorist would do.
Mailing deceased remains is probably some kind of crime.
Is this
Oh, yeah, I
anthrax
believe
or
so.
my dad?
Yes.
This was how long ago?
Yesterday was the wake. My dad passed away like a month ago, and then like 2 months ago, his father passed away.
Yeah, I heard about that. Sorry to hear
And
that.
so we just have been making inappropriate jokes about it.
I mean, what else can you do?
They're just called jokes.
Yes.
We can make this a dad morning podcast or something. Because my father died 10 years ago, and I deposited some part of his ashes at Wimbledon, where they play tennis.
Oh, yeah?
really?
That's
Actual
awesome.
courts, yeah.
You threw it at
I mean,
Serena
like-
Williams.
What's
Like
that?
secretly?
It was secretly. I had to do it stealthily.
Yeah, they're all-
I wrote them an email from New York. I knew we'd be passing through, and a few weeks later, and asked them for permission, and they wrote back in a very British way and said, "No, that's not going to happen. We get no permission." So we'd already put some ashes. We'd buried some ashes in the graveyard, and I brought some on the plane, in my suitcase.
Oh, God.
On the way to Austria, and we had my mom and I had a week in London or so, and I made a point of going. My father was a huge tennis fan, so I took the tour. I paid money to take the tour in late November. It was cold and rainy, and I had 15 minutes to kill before the tour began, and I was
Yeah.
on my own. Nobody's monitoring me or anything.
Did you try to play up the part and you had a little flag that said you had, a shirt and stuff? Yeah, I'm
just
totally into this.
Cough and blow the dust out or something.
What I actually did was I saw a big green field of grass with it was set lower than the surface I was on. There was a huge hedge
Yeah.
that I could have walked on.
They have a lot of those in the UK.
Everything was set below me, and I just looked around and took my bag and dumped it all out. And it was kind of like Lebowski or something like that. And but the really funny thing is I took the tour, and at the very end of the tour we walked by, and this very bland expanse of grass that you would never think anything of. The tour guide was like, "Oh, and here we have courts 14, 15, 16, 17. They turned those into courts. My father's ashes are on this court.
You showed
that's
them.
that's a very touching story, but these microphones are actually going to a van parked outside.
knew it.
Send the authorities in.
That's the whole
The
reason why we
Wimbledon
set up
authorities,
this.
This was a sting.
the U.S. Tennis Association.
They come in and in their holsters they have tennis rackets and pull them out. And
That would be. How would that work?
I can't engineer the holster right now. Sorry, I don't know how that would work.
Well, because the
I didn't have time to think of that
the end
while
of
I
the
was making that.
The end of the tennis racket would be bigger, so it's not like you could.
It's Bender's
insert
chest
it.
cavity inside the holster.
Fair enough. So, once again, stymied by the Jumbotron. The heat will turn off in a second. It's on a little bit of a delay. That's that noise you're hearing.
Oh, I thought
Sorry,
I was
people.
leaking.
It's 15 degrees outside. It was a bunch of old men yelling and pointing like burning a witch or something, but you didn't get to see what it was. They were just like, what's this one called?
It's called Bad King Cole.
Bad King Cole.
I'm sorry, no. It's called Bold King Cole. And it's
Bold
from-
King Cole.
Bold King Cole from 1936.
It was color. I mean, they're usually black and white. So I think that was unusual that it was in color, but it was faded because it's what, 100 some years old, right?
Yeah, I didn't look it up at all. I didn't know anything about it.
Just something about a king named Cole who's bold in his manner.
I didn't.
Martin, did you notice the cartoon at the beginning?
I did
in
not.
The credits? Yeah, most people don't because it's not anything worth note or worth talking about.
No,
on-
it
in
is
the hour
because
that we have to do
so,
this.
I mean, it's usually almost to a fault just weird public domain cartoons.
Got it.
That equates to the couch gag on The Simpsons.
Right,
It doesn't have to
right.
do with anything. It's just a thing. But more often than not, when you see like a context-free 5-second clip of a Felix the Cat cartoon, it looks like somebody took some real bad drugs and had it scoped out in their brain or something. Like it's just there's a lot of really surreal stuff, and it's also they're usually named something weird like Coco, Needles the boss,
Oh yeah, that was the one.
the clown that got attacked by the human hand.
The rotoscope.
Yeah,
One.
Oh yeah, I'm acknowledging that too.
right.
Yes.
So that's all. It's just I feel like it's
I think we
important to bring up. You'll notice I stopped talking about the cold opens.
But yes, and I'm glad.
I don't know.
Until
You
one
kind of
comes
just
up.
did, and this was almost the first time. So really, you haven't stopped talking about it.
no, it's beautiful.
And I want to take a poll now whether or not we should ever talk about the opening cartoon again because I'm so sick of hearing about it.
I can tell you what the results of that poll will be. I don't care. And we'll keep bringing it up.
I will keep looking it up, and then we can just have the one thing where I just say cartoon, blah, 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 the year. And then we move on because no one notices it. I don't know.
I don't know.
Yeah.
But I'm not a fair test case because I hardly know the show at all. This is my dirty little secret.
Yeah, let's
It
get
can-
into that a little
I
bit.
mean, either way, yeah, like you're checking out an episode, you didn't notice because not something that you would look for. But I guess
Right.
if you are watching, a lot of them,
So
you
I'm
probably
assuming
would.
they, unlike the couch gag, they don't draw as much attention to it. Like it's very subtle.
Yeah, it's really
even
it's
for,
it's
even
also,
for fans.
Also very short too.
very
like,
short.
So,
The Planet Express ship crashes into it at the end of the title sequence.
Oh, okay.
So
okay.
it's as it's approaching, you see some fucked up thing,
and then it changes to the executive producers, and then they crash. Like, it's not even, it's so quick. And then there's always the tagline at the beginning when they have the logo on there. And most people notice that.
right.
Have you watched a lot of Futurama?
Not much. I would say it's probably single digits, like in numbers of episodes I've seen. About a year ago, I saw one.
Less than 5?
Maybe about 5. Maybe.
Oh, okay.
Of course, I know what it is. I know what the Simpsons universe is, and I know what Futurama is. But about a year ago, I watched one that had made some list of like the greatest episodes of all TV
Oh, okay,
of all
yeah.
time.
was
You
it
know-
the one about Fry's dog?
Yes, that was the one. So it's very good. Like, is that before the one we watched today, or after?
It's after.
It's after. Okay.
It's a meme that's come up a bunch recently.
So so basically like the world at large has selected this as like the best one, and it's getting its momentum as
Definitely
like,
resonates
you know,
with fans the most. Like that episode. Just
it's got an
because-
emotional core to
Yeah,
it,
yeah.
like and it's some narrative.
Kind of hit the sweet spot. It's
Ambition.
like season 8 of The Simpsons or something, where it really
Right.
kind of it's firing on all cylinders.
Season 8, 4 through 7,
Earlier,
3
yeah.
through 8, maybe. 8's
If you-
still in the vein.
okay.
of-
We frequently digress into Simpsons talk, not real deep, but it's frequent. And I would say that yes, like seasons 4 through about 10 were the golden age, but there was an apex probably around 10. Whatever season had 22 short films about Springfield, that's the best season of The Simpsons.
Okay.
With that perhaps being the best episode.
Right.
But we don't need to argue.
I don't
about
know
that
what mine
now.
would be. I won't argue. That's an amazing episode. And
Yeah.
that season is amazing.
So,
I don't have a favorite, so.
So as far as my Futurama consumption goes, like my main trait as far as this podcast goes is that I'm old. I'm in my 40s. Like I've like remember when there was no such thing as The Simpsons. Like I remember
Yeah.
reading Matt Groening Life in Hell, and
In
that
the
was
back
like
of the alt
that was like
weekly.
the only thing on his resume was that. Like
And that was like a solid career. Like he was a
He was
nationally
amazing.
syndicated
He was-
cartoonist.
I mean, I graduated high school in 1988. Like Nirvana had not formed yet.
Yep.
Like this is a long time ago, you know. And and I remember I actually brought them with me. I can show you guys later on. Like if you don't have those Life in Hell books, like they're amazing.
Yeah.
And like the ones that I bought in like 1985, probably.
I used to
Like,
flip through them at the comic shop when I was a kid, but I never bought any of them.
Probably
they're
didn't
amazing.
understand him. I mean, honestly, like a lot of it is.
Oh, as a
It's
kid,
for-
I
it's
know
for
I didn't.
adults.
I can
Yeah.
tell you,
For
I don't
adults.
remember. I remember looking at them going and not buying them because I'm like,
Right.
oh, that's neat. I don't know what. I don't get this.
I
you
was
know?
like probably 15, 16, and I was just learning about like super dark, like super cynical, like just black humor. And like, so I'm reading these things, and it's like all the jokes are like, right, an office is like a cubicle, and that's where you just want to commit suicide because everything sucks. And like, that's Matt Groening's humor, right? At that time, it still kind of is. So for me, like The Simpsons, as great as it is almost a sellout move. Like it's okay. It's for mass consumption. Like I was there in the punk years when he was really breaking shit.
When he
You know
was
what I mean?
angry.
Like, yeah. You know, so
yeah, The Simpsons doesn't represent what he was doing before.
it's not purely
you
his
know,
vision.
I
It's
mean,
other people are involved, you know.
or
other
even
people,
represent what he was
you
doing
know.
on the Tracy Ullman show. You know, like,
Right, that's right. It changed a lot. It was a brilliant move to like take his stuff and put it out, you know, to a mass audience.
Yeah.
But I'm coming at it from like I was in college when Bart Mania hit, like when it like really hit.
I'm a couple years younger than you,
Right.
But I mean, I'm well within that same time frame. Like I
Right.
think we maybe have an Olympiad between us.
Right,
So
exactly.
I was out of college.
and his name is Usain Bolt.
Yes. I was out of college when the show started by a couple years, when Futurama started. So
Futurama, right.
I certainly had, better or more illicit things to do at that point, but these guys were both in high school. So there's still that spread. But my history was I had watched it early on, more or less regularly because I'd be watching The Simpsons, but it tapered off. And then I never really came back to it. So this has been a relearning experience.
I have friends. I mean, I'm originally from New York, and I have friends in New York who would tell me like Futurama is better than The Simpsons. Like you should be watching Futurama. Like so, it's when you told me about this project, I was like, that makes total sense. Like
But
I'm
that
sure
sounds
it's
like a
amazing.
total New York
you've,
thing
you've
too.
heard, you've had enough friends, and you've seen it pop up on
Right.
on things. Like, oh yeah, it's understandable that this is a fan favorite for a lot of people. Like,
100%.
yeah.
And it's, I'm sorry.
I think the the fact that it got canceled, like it had a really strong run for a couple of years and got canceled. I think it's almost like the Simpsons audience was like spoiled. Like they just took it for granted. Like okay, there's a spin-off. Like what is this? Do we like it? Maybe we'll decide. But it was actually an awesome show. But people were just like too complacent or something.
I think they pulled a news radio with it too, where it was like, when is it on again?
See, I'm not aware of that. I'm not surprised.
It
but
jumped around. I think it aired on Sundays, Thursdays, Tuesdays, Fridays.
Oh yeah,
you
it jumped
go.
all around. I mean, it was definitely a good enough where multiple episodes won Emmys. So like,
Wow,
it's
really?
not just a silly cartoon show that was
The
on,
ratings
even
jumped
though it
around
is,
too.
But
They jumped up, and
Yeah.
then they jumped down.
yeah, there's like a handful of episodes that won.
Nobody?
Like, no,
I think it's jump
missed
up,
it.
jump
get
up, and
down.
get down.
Oh fuck! All right.
Oh, you messed it up. But what was it? Oh, yeah, multiple episodes won either for the animated comedy or for like what was the one episode that we watched for color? They won an Emmy for
Oh yeah,
color
yeah.
and things like that. So
Yeah, it was
it's,
blue, right? That was the color.
I think it was more of a turquoise.
Well, I mean,
It-
okay.
It is interesting, and this episode
an
unfortunately
aquamarine.
didn't really have it. But throughout the series, there are a peppering of really gorgeous CGI effects, which were, I mean, at that point, relatively pioneering. Like, there's been some specific sequences in certain episodes. You're like, that looks really cool, especially comparative to what was going on at the time. Now it's like you can, send a text message with basically the same effect as the stink bombs from Big Hunk of Garbage.
But then there's this episode, which mostly relies on lines. It's all the writing in this episode. There's nothing like. I mean, there's a few background gags in this episode that you notice or whatever, but it's all my notes have like just lines that characters have said that I thought was funny. Like there was nothing else. It's a good I really liked this episode.
I thought it was really solid. I mean, there's a lot of world building going on, so it's kind of interesting for you to come in and hit probably a half dozen recurring characters outside of the. You have Morbo and Linda.
I was curious about that. Yeah.
Oh yeah, they're the news team.
So there's a gag involving them. They're getting held up by the news cameras, right?
Yeah. And they've been
Like
in
outside the studio.
I think we've seen them 3 or 4 times so far.
Okay.
Mom is a recurring character.
That was my next question. Mom and all
Her
3
three
of her
sons,
children.
yeah.
And one of them sounds like Vincent Price.
Yeah.
Igner-
That's Maurice LaMarche. He used to do, I'm sure, you know what, I'm sure at some point he's done Vincent Price on something, but he used to do Citizen Kane, Orson Welles. Yeah.
The Peas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was that the critic? Was it?
I think so. He was just on the Kevin Pollak chat show
Oh, yeah?
last week,
really?
And he talks at length. Apparently he can do that whole Orson Welles like commercial, including the director's voice, who's a British
Was he
guy,
doing it on the show?
by heart.
Oh,
Like,
that's
he
awesome.
could do it when he was 15. Like he knew it by
Ah.
heart.
When they're
That was
yelling
like
about
his-
the
I gotta check that out.
He's criticizing the script and like it's it's brilliant.
those are last week must have been like
And
voiceover
Brain
because
from
Billy
Pinky and the
West
Brain.
was on WTF last week too.
Oh, I missed that one. Okay.
Oh,
So-
Billy West was on Marin too. I haven't listened to it yet. but,
Yeah, it was
somebody
good,
texted-
but I mean,
Jason
it's,
Molinari texted me about that.
I think what happens whenever you have any of those guys on is it becomes like an impression parade, whether it's for fun or not.
You definitely heard some like off-camera laughter, like the crew was laughing at
Yeah,
the stuff he was
that's
saying.
always
It's not that common. Like
It's kind of now you have with everything filmable, in your pocket and everything. Like those kind of gaffes and weird moments kind of leak out all the time. But back at that point, like when the Orson Welles footage came out, like in the late 70s through like the mid 80s, my dad owned a recording studio. He worked in advertising and they'd make music for commercials and stuff. And all of the engineers at these recording studios would swap tapes. I mean, it was like people trading phony phone call tapes and stuff. It was just you'd have like your zine or you'd have your contacts go, oh, I got this one. And so they had that stuff. They had done some commercials with Sammy Davis Jr. towards the end when he had like a line of mustard. He was working with them here. And then there was this other one where they were handling the ads for the local Kentucky Fried Chicken thing. And they brought the Colonel in to do some voiceovers.
Amazing.
And he was like 900%.
real Colonel or
It was the real Colonel.
Not the robot Colonel.
No, it was not Norm Macdonald. It was not Daryl Hammond. This was Colonel Harlan Sanders from wherever the fuck Kentucky. And he was just batshit crazy. So they got the ads, but it was like a 4-hour session, and they'd just have to, like, they'd get half a line, and then he'd ramble off on something and cut it. Like, those tapes have to
Hopefully
be around
blue.
somewhere.
Hopefully he's like saying racist things or something like
I'm
that.
sure.
That would be amazing.
I'm sure. I mean, and that's like, I wish those tapes could serve as. And I mean, in full disclosure, I haven't looked on the internet because maybe they're out there.
They
like
might
everything
be.
else is. They're doing like Longmont Potion Castle like vinyl retrospective box sets now. So who knows what all's out there. But yes, so Morbo and Linda, they kind of start the episode off.
That's right.
Morbo learns of humans' weak knees and how it's a good. He's like, we'll remember this when we come back. And then I didn't realize. I guess they said this before, but Mom's company is basically responsible for every robot in the world.
Yes,
Yeah, that's new information for this
It
episode.
did seem that way, yeah.
Yeah.
that is true. Like all the robots that basically the professor was the creation of it. Like he invented.
He
that.
invented all, including like the toasters and the Surly coffee machine and all of
And,
those things.
The episode that's we recorded a few weeks ago, the first robot to qualify for a boat loan. So
he's got a pretty storied past.
yes, no, I mean yes, that is a big thing in the Futurama is that MomCore and the professor are the reason why the robots are who they are and like why there's so many of them and
But
how
so
they've
so
gotten.
they are responsible for the bending units. They're responsible for the preacher bot. They're responsible for the robot devil.
Mhm.
They're responsible for the various Tinny Tim.
Yeah, that's what we're
The Crushinator.
believe.
The Crushinator, the coffee maker, the garbage disposal, yes, everything.
The candlestick maker.
It's a monopoly.
Apparently.
A monopoly.
Is that? Did you just make that up?
That might come up somewhere in this
Later on. Okay.
Yes.
You know what? If
Series,
it does,
like-
let's just say that you
Yeah.
Well played,
Yeah.
Tom.
But I just thought of that at the top of my head right now, but it might have been buried somewhere. But
How many times has mom popped up before this episode?
I think really just once.
Just once.
yeah.
Because it's kind of could be a good gag where it's like they're doing Mother's Day, and then you learn watching the show there's a thing called Mom Corp. Some audience members have seen this character before.
Yeah. Well, and in her previous appearance, she was trying to. There was one remaining can of anchovies from the 20th century, and she was trying to purchase that because it was the only oil that could be used. It was like a never-ending supply of oil for robots, and she manufactures the oil for robots. So I thought that was her whole racket, was like the service and aftermarket care of these robots. But she's actually building them, and then forces
Just
them.
wait
Did
till
you,
you
which
find out she
episode did you
also-
watch? Why are we going on about this for so
We're
long?
talking about the fishful of dollars.
Yeah.
No, I mean, yeah. Wait, I know that. Why? Yeah, I know what
Okay.
episode we're talking about.
Why are we
I've-
going
I've
on
seen
about what?
No, because
about mom. Yes, mom makes the robots.
No,
End of
I-
conversation. I, don't understand.
No,
I
and
feel like we were talking
also-
about this for an hour.
And also the oil
And
to
a-
lubricate
and
those
a bunch of
robots.
other stuff,
That's what
too.
I'm saying, because Martin doesn't have the benefit of having watched the previous episode, so I was laying
Check
that
this out. Mom's company makes all the robots. Okay. Anyway, so
What about the oil?
Morbo
Horchie?
and then other
What about the
newscaster are
goddamn
talking.
oil?
And
What about the
and
oil? Does she make
And
anything
she has
else?
She has a delivery service.
and a delivery service and other stuff we find out in other
Is she
episodes.
Montgomery Burns? Is she like a?
Oh, yeah,
like,
she's
she
definitely-
controls
that is-
almost everything.
I never even made that comparison, but she is the Montgomery Burns of that universe.
And
for
this-
sure.
But is
Point-
she as
this
sinister?
episode-
If the
points that
Earth
out
or the
even more.
galaxy was Springfield, yeah, she would
Right.
totally be the I like when Morbo makes that crack about the knees.
Yeah.
And then does his villain laugh, and then there's just a quick little pause as he's tapering off, and then she does like the newscaster like ha ha ha, and I just one of those things I never noticed watching that before. Them playing on just the cheesy evening news behavior, and I don't know. Somebody else say something now.
This originates from the heart.
I did like all the. I
Solid
mean,
gag.
not especially, but all the little goofy gags of the different robots, and like it's like Futurama. Not in every episode, and not that they always hit all of these, and some of them heavily in some episodes, and not as much as in others. But like this one had a lot of the little like cutesy sight gags with the robots. They'll do that when they have the opportunity to. Sometimes an episode will have a whole lot of like somebody was saying earlier about having a lot of like background, little jokes. Sometimes it'll just be like future puns or sci-fi. And this is one of those that like they had the opportunity to, here's a robot that does this. Well, what if it was doing this? Haha. And like it's, I liked it.
Much more about the robots than about like the fact that 1,000 years have passed. Like
Yeah.
that's,
Oh,
not,
yeah,
that's
yeah.
not the gag in this one. The
Yeah.
gag's the robots.
Yeah.
I was actually, I guess it comes up a little later, so I had a
What Fry and
question.
talking about the robots? How we
no, the
how he
coffee,
didn't
the coffee machine. But we'll get to that later. So when Bender starts getting all mushy about Mom, like everybody gets mortified about his actual emotions. Has he not expressed those before?
Except when he got the chip implanted in him to find Nibbler in the sewer.
But then it turned out that the chip wasn't working.
It was working at twice the capacity, I believe.
Yeah, that was the joke. See, Bender's this character. I mean, I know you've only watched
27.
of these, but he's kind of a jerk. He doesn't have emotions really, not except for like selfish, mean emotions. And
Well, when you got to see, that leads into the next thing when they go to the Robot History Museum, and you get to see inside a bending unit's eyes, and it's just like theft target, rube. That
Alcohol content.
yeah, that was. I thought it was interesting that the Robot Museum of History was very much like the American Museum of Natural History in New York. Like having just gone there, it even looked like some of the interiors they kind of aped
okay.
what those things are, like the sort of the double-decker dioramas and things.
Yep.
But all the little bits and pieces they put in there was it was a nice touch that they just kind of went in there to kill some time, learn about things. Do you
that
think
was another one with like, oh, look at this,
Do you think the museum was free to visit on Mother's Day?
For robots,
Only robots?
probably.
No, didn't Bender say?
You have to pay. You're
Yeah.
paying.
All right, I didn't catch that. But
Yeah,
I,
he was
I-
like, he's like, oh, if you insist, you're paying, or something.
Oh,
That's
okay.
accurate.
All right. You'd think they do like a holiday promotion though. Like they do. I mean, aren't there other museums that are like, hey, it's.
You know what? I bet Mom Corp owns the Natural History Museum there.
I'm sure she does.
She wants to make a profit.
But how is she going to make a prop?
She's
I'm trying to figure out her whole
grinding
business model.
gifts into a hocus
Destroying the
pocus
world.
cure for cancer. She's gonna make money any way she can.
Oh, you're from New York, Martin.
Yep.
I've never been there, but there's a lot of it because in the episode they're setting as New York, you know, and
I did.
I don't know if you've
It's
seen
a wonderful shot.
in the
actually.
couple episodes you've seen, if that's ever there's one where it's they go to old New York, and then there's I don't know. Anyways, what the point I was gonna say was we should have you back for an episode where it's
okay.
like some kind of Tom. You can be the expert on figuring out which episodes would be a good New
Have
York
you
or
even
New
looked?
York or
Have
old
you even
New York
looked at the
heavy.
spreadsheet? It's probably on there already.
What?
What episodes?
No, they're all
contain
on
what?
there. I thought the spreadsheet had all the episodes.
Well, up to a point.
No, we're only up to like season
Oh.
3 right now that we're booking.
Yeah.
Okay.
He hasn't looked at it.
We're waiting to be canceled or a cease and desist letter sent to us.
I mean, or like
by the Americans for Decency and good podcasting. Not even Futurama, just like just people just hate the podcast. You know.
I don't even think the people that like the podcast are that enthusiastic about it. I mean,
To put that much effort into
they won't even put the effort into write iTunes reviews. 23 of you have. We really appreciate it. But
That's 23 more than I would expect.
but
so
that's
good.
like 24,900 and some other people that haven't. So I don't know what the
45%
percentage
of our
work.
45% of our listeners are using our podcast to torture a prisoner.
Is it, do you want the waterboard or the Slurmcast? And invariably, it's like no.
They beg
The
for the
waterboard,
waterboard.
me, please. I know what that is at least.
It's on in the line at BMPs across America.
Well,
You're given a headset. You have to listen to this while you're waiting in line to get your driver's license.
has that gotten sorted out?
Yesterday.
Hey, congratulations!
I had to like hide my enthusiasm when I got to the wake because I was like, I had to
Dancing in.
I had to re-register my vehicle in Ohio,
Okay.
and my birthday, the plates expired last Saturday, and I started this process about 3 weeks before my birthday, and it was like every time I went in, it was this whole rigmarole of, all right, I went, I got these two documents. They're like, well, now you need this and this,
no.
and it'll take 3 weeks to get here or whatever. And
course.
I'm
But
like,
you went up there. I mean, like
I,
7
like
or
eight
times.
like,
Oh
to,
my
to
God.
all the BMVs in Northeast
that's
Ohio, and it
horrible.
was
Like maybe
yeah.
this one will be less shitty. Nope.
Yeah. And finally, yesterday, I got everything taken care of. And yeah, it's a huge relief. I was way more stressed about it than I probably needed to be. But like that kind of stuff, like that snowball effect of like, oh, this happened, whether it was my fault or not. Like for once it wasn't because I actually didn't wait till like the day before my birthday.
Right.
And it's frustrating. And then this happens, and then you get pulled over, and then you get a ticket for this, and then
Right.
to do the ticket or for this thing it leads to this.
Why
and
do you
it's
have
like
a box
whole-
of ashes in the back of your car? I need to take them to Wimbledon. Are you a communist? I don't know. I wanted to ask about the exhaust fumes from the robots because to this point, other
Yeah.
than Bender smoking cigars, it didn't seem like.
I feel like that's the first time they bring it up. There's a whole episode about it later.
Is there?
Yeah. It seems like it as like a quick little gag of them walking through it. It seemed like it didn't make sense, and it was kind of like, oh, really? What kind of 1,000 years in the future is it that the robots are giving off fossil fuels?
Were there
But
any
it-
deleted scenes or anything about that?
No, nothing on this.
So wait, there's a big reveal later on about the exhaust fumes because
There-
to me it seemed like a pretty garden variety fart joke. It was.
Oh yeah, that's all it was. But and you know what? And it could have been just that. Who knows? Probably. I'm sure the writers didn't have that
understood, yeah.
intention. But then again, there are some shows where some. And actually, this one has this. Well, the reason I say it's possible that they might have had this like clanking around on a board somewhere of ideas is that there are, and we've already seen it so far. There's episodes where they shot or animated something and had like 2 characters in a background that you don't meet until a season or 2 later.
Like Leela's parents?
Yeah, and other little things like that. The first episode has a shadow in it that comes into play like 4 or 5 years later that you find out. So
I love that
so
stuff.
That's when something like this comes up. It's like, oh, that might have been just that joke, and then a year later,
It's
or
like
2
a
years later,
preemptive
they're writing the
retcon.
episode like, oh, hey, weren't they giving off exhaust? Let's do an episode about that or whatever. But who knows? Like it's which is neat. That's the kind of stuff that definitely makes me appreciate the writing behind the show a lot.
I like it. I feel like you only give them the writers and everything, like the fact that they only think week to week for writing an episode, like they're not gonna get.
I think that's most of it. I mean, some of the stuff that they might grab, they might think of, like in season 2, they might think back without planning it and be like, why don't we grab those weird characters in the back and do something with them?
I mean, some
You know,
could be.
it could be that, but-
It's probably a whole mashup of all that. I mean,
I like to think like that they have this whole vision of this entire universe, and
That's
they have
how-
like characters in mind, what they want to develop, and how they do things, and that's how they write.
might, and they might,
But-
they might have those ideas, and that they have them somewhere, and they hold on to them. Some of them might be just possible. I'm sure that's part of the process. With Battlestar, like that was a show where I was like, with the reboot, I was like, oh, everything that happened to this was written by this group of just godlike writers that and then you find out in like the extra commentary and all this stuff that they were like, well, we didn't know when we wrote that this character dies. We were like, what do? We kind of needed him. Let's bring him back, this way or whatever. And like, what the fuck? Are you guys just throwing ideas at the wall? And I thought it was
What
like
if we replace
coming from
him with-
on high. Like,
What if we replace him with Jimmy Smits?
That's
that
how-
always works.
That's how Lost was written.
that's
so,
how
I
Lost was
mean-
written. And
And I haven't watched
one
it, but
didn't
at the
deliver,
end, didn't
but,
they just say "fuck it" and just
yeah, they did.
Yes, I think that there is probably a duality of breaking a long-term story arc versus some of those long-running gags that they kind of keep in their pocket. Because at the same time, they didn't, a lot of this was written for short resolution because they kept getting canceled or threatened with cancellation.
Mm-hmm.
Also, the first run of this show was like pre-Sopranos. Like this is a sitcom. You
Yeah.
write episodic stuff. Like the Simpsons family never really changes.
Yeah,
like,
there wasn't,
like-
unless it was circumstance like a voice actor dying or something like that. It
Exactly.
wasn't, or getting fired or leaving or whatever.
I mean, The Simpsons never serialized anything really.
No, they
You
kept
know?
rebooting like
Oh, yeah.
story like origin stories
Yeah.
as the years went on.
So this accreted things over the years that became like long-term
I mean,
character development. But
and so did Futurama. Like they ended up redoing.
Yeah, they sure did.
Like
in the when it came back after the cancellation, and like that it bothers me. Like I held them up to a higher standard than that. For example, this episode, Bender holds up or he sends mom the card that with
the
a picture
picture
of
of him.
myself when I was a month old, and it's
Yeah.
it's the joke is he looks the same, he's smoking a cigar or whatever.
Yeah.
They hit on that a couple times where you see him when he's manufactured, when he's born, and it's him and whatever, and beer and cigar and etc. And then they do this episode, and we won't talk about it, but where they have him as like a baby robot, and there's this whole thing. But it's on the later. It's in the
Well, and hang on. He showed a picture of his actual mother before, and she was just like a big crane.
he was
So-
when they show him being manufactured,
Well,
he's
right.
going
So
through
how does-
a assembly line. So yeah,
How
that
does
makes
the
sense.
chain of lineage work? If
Oh,
mom,
if that was his mom,
if
and then he
mom
thinks
is
the
the
his
mom, but then he has the mom,
But she's the corporate mom. That's the whole point of the episode, right? This is a big corporate.
So she's like the
cinema
Uber
but like
mom.
scam,
equating it to
right?
human family, like how would you?
Right.
I'm trying to think of if you. I'm just like how would he think of those two moms? Would it be like?
Like if you were really rich and you were
She's-
raised by like a nanny, that would be your mom, but then you have
She's
your
more
real
like
mom.
Santa Claus or like a combination of Santa Claus and like Steve Jobs, right?
Yeah.
Like not there's no sense of like the mom is just like a metaphor, but it's like a strong one. Like Santa's
Yeah.
like looking out for us or something like that. Like I don't know.
But
what? How many robots are actually made out of wax?
apparently the janitor at the Wax Robot Museum, because I've never
Very
even
cranky,
seen that
very
before.
cranky.
Yeah. Well, I think
That was
You
a good-
trying
that
to
was a
say
good
that a
bit.
robot made of wax can't stand here with a mop?
Sleep standing up. I
Sleep
think
standing up.
he's- Am I understand, Pete, that you're watching these for the first time?
you know what?
Mostly like
At best. At best, I'm watching them for the first time in about 17 years.
Got it. So you're coming in a little colder.
There's some.
You're not as up on the lineage and all that stuff.
Well,
all the plots and stuff.
at this point, I mean, I've gone. This is our 27th episode of this show, so I've watched 27 of these episodes, and there've been a good number of them. It's like I remember seeing this.
Got it.
Maybe a few times, but it's been several years.
Got it.
I can't even watch all the current release stuff that I want to see, much less like go back and revisit it. And I'm not trying to impress young ladies when I have them over at my place or whatever with like these vintage cartoon shows.
Why are you looking at Horchie like that?
It's just I've been enjoying it, but I also kind of look at it from a more critical perspective.
And also, but you're learning. You're catching up a little bit. I mean,
yeah,
as
there's
you go along.
there's stuff that they know because they've watched
Right,
these later episodes. I'm like, well, what about this? And they go, yeah, I just give it a season and a half and we'll get there.
Well, I have to say, as somebody coming in cold, I was pleasantly surprised at the writing of this episode. I thought it was right there with Simpsons, if not better. Like it was just, I watched it alone in my living room. Like, and my test on this kind of thing is like, did I laugh out loud when that thing happened?
Mm-hmm.
Even though there's not like a social element of other people being in the room and enjoying it with me,
Yeah.
I did several times.
What was the
I've-
first thing you laughed out loud at?
It was the
one of-
Jumbotron, right? It was the Jumbotron.
No. The first gag I really liked was the. It's such a simple joke, but the little bus that lands in front of the gate and then walks in.
And walks in, yeah.
It's just a smart.
That's what I'm saying. All those
just
little,
a
yeah.
nice joke. Like I really love the little British robot that saved his pennies and like
Tinny
then
Tim.
died. Like that's a recurring character.
when his present got crushed and then he got crushed and was just like, oh,
By the
damn.
Crushinator.
By the Crushinator, yeah.
They literally.
There are a lot of the robots that show up. I'd say, I mean, maybe 20% of them or whatever are reoccurring robots too. So it's
and
like
this-
it's a
okay.
lot of it is
Okay.
like, oh, there's so and so. There's this one from
Got
that
it.
episode.
This
you know.
episode has almost every single
Robot we've seen up to this
robot
point.
up to this point.
Yeah.
Especially in
And
the
it's
wide
like-
shots, you'd see
yeah,
the
backgrounds,
background.
like-
Actually,
things.
come to think of it, the original joke about like this emanates from my heart or whatever. Like I
Yeah.
laughed out loud.
His
at
name
that.
is
That's-
Destructor.
You know who we didn't see?
Who?
Calculon.
Oh yeah, no, he's in that statue.
Is he?
Yeah, when they're at the wax or the museum,
Oh,
it's him
okay.
and yeah.
Yeah.
So he's not actually in it, but he's
He's represented.
Yeah. But this episode not like I don't know. I guess because there's the like Pizza the World building, and I mean there is a there is a story going in those 3 acts or whatever, but it's not like a heavy story one. A lot of it is like a lot of sight gags, a lot of just gags in general, a lot of good lines, but overall it's just it's a good, to me it's a good funny episode. It's not.
That's what I was saying. It like this whole episode. All my notes are about lines in
And-
the episode that
and
were just
visual
written.
things.
Like,
There were a lot of visual things.
Yeah.
Like,
And if you
know.
came in, like if this was halfway through the first season, I don't think your reaction would have been the same because it did take a while for everything to kind of get up and running.
right,
To
I
get as
believe that.
cohesive, especially comedy wise.
You guys have addressed this in one of the shows that I listened to of the Slurmcast. You were saying like we haven't quite gotten to this really sweet spot
there's-
of like
yeah.
the really good ones,
Yeah.
And I was hoping this one was a good one. It felt like it, like they'd hit their stride somehow.
Oh yeah,
Like,
definitely.
yeah.
Yeah, definitely before.
on
this.
the mom's remote where she ends up changing like the.
Oh yeah, I forgot
robots?
to pause it and look at the buttons. Did
I
you
got
write them
them
down?
Yeah.
I did. I wrote them down.
They're pretty
good. Give gifts was the top one, and then tidy up the world, the rebel, and then serve man regular and serve man ironic.
really good.
And all of this despite the fact that those jerkwad robots make her sick to her ass.
She was. I mean, I have to. She made me laugh several times. The things she was yelling, like "Cram it, ape!"
Yeah.
Like were, and she just slaps anybody who's nearby, like
Yeah.
for no reason.
the children get
like,
abused
amazing.
pretty,
Yeah.
pretty
it's
well.
just really like gives
Trace
it some
McNeely,
energy.
right?
Yep.
yeah.
It gives the whole thing some energy. Like
If you're so inclined, you should go back and watch A Fistful of Dollars.
Okay.
Because that's Mom's introduction, and it's got a lot of good stuff in that,
I
too.
paused it. You paused it on their own. I paused it when they were going past. There was a couple people holding up, not
Yeah,
picket signs, but
signs.
signs or whatever.
Yeah.
And I
At
didn't,
the
I didn't
beginning-
get either of the jokes, so I
They're
didn't
just-
write it down.
the
I
first time it was the coding joke, right? It
Yeah,
was like
they were-
subroutine, like do a Mother's Day thing or something like
They
that.
did
like,
another code joke like that. in
They've
one of the
done
first episodes.
several of them.
I don't understand any of them, but these guys do, and they explain them to me.
No. I don't even I wrote them down. I copied
But you
them off.
understand the
idea.
Yeah, behind it. Like it's completely foreign to me. So
Yeah, like the one that I understood was repeat, and then
it's all
in,
Jesse Kasopoulos to me.
In brackets, love mom while 1 is greater than 0, which means love mom as long as 1 is greater than 0. Like, so always love mom.
You have a Boolean condition that will always evaluate to true, and thus the loop will run infinitely. This is at this point in the episode. This is where the full-on robot rebellion takes place.
Right.
Which, if you were down at Ground Zero in front of MomCore, you'd know that was going on. But the Planet Express crew is just hanging around in the office, and they start getting a bunch of like snarky replies from.
Maybe they didn't realize how many things were robots.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Well,
Like-
I mean, like the greeting card that Bender bought.
I love the greeting card.
Yeah, me too.
But the thing I was going to say about the coffee machine earlier is Fry goes to get a cup of coffee, and they have like 2 regular coffee pots, but then apparently it's got like an on-demand Keurig built in there too, except that the coffee machine was being a dick about it. And then the toaster goes ape shit, and then Hermes' stapler goes ape shit.
Did anybody notice that Fry wanted 8 spoons
Yes.
of sugar?
yeah, I picked up on that.
He drinks coffee like my wife does. It's just
Yeah.
let's.
Then the TV went haywire. I like that the suicide booth wouldn't let the guy in.
Oh, the suicide booth. Is
Oh,
so
after
good.
the ATM took his
It's
card.
mine. It's mine now, buddy.
Leela's wrist thing.
Oh, yeah.
And then it's try washing your wrist sometime.
Smells it.
Yeah.
I wonder what it smells like. Probably if you leave a Band-Aid on for a really long time.
What's the name of the character of color who's hanging out with them?
Hermes?
Hermes. So like
Yeah.
he's being collated alive. They're collating me alive.
Oh, yeah, I
Like,
didn't
Which
even
is,
think- notice
I mean,
that.
that's
Such a good
that's
joke.
he is a. I mean, he's the resident bureaucrat who is he's a grade 37 now. I think from the central bureaucracy, he got demoted, then
Is
promoted.
he 38 or 37?
I think he was.
I don't
at
think
36.
it ever comes up again,
Again?
No.
whatsoever.
No, really?
But he was
Never?
originally at 36. He was looking for a promotion. He
No,
got demoted and
maybe
then
in
moved
that
back up.
episode that we were just talking about with Bender's whole
And he just
The exhaust
origin.
he
Oh,
relishes.
no, the
yeah,
Mexico
when they're-
and yeah.
Okay.
He just relishes being a bureaucrat. And
Spectre number 5.
I kind of I identify with him a lot more than I
Oh,
feel
really?
comfortable with because he's very much like order. I want
Okay.
some order.
What Weebelos? What is that? I was in Weebelos or whatever.
Yeah,
That's a
It's
Boy
a
Scout.
Boy Scout.
it's
thing.
intermediate. It's between Cub Scouts and Boy Scouts.
Oh, okay.
So
I had
it
no
stands
idea
for
what that was.
We'll be loyal.
Really?
Scouts.
Really?
Oh, I didn't know
Yeah.
that.
It's pretty dorky. Like it's pretty low in the food chain.
Oh,
yeah.
I'm just a weebelo.
It's like a
that's-
tweener.
Yeah, exactly.
Because
I mean, compared to the Boy Scouts, who were the coolest guys in school growing up,
It's almost-
I did Boy Scouts for 2 weeks, and
I wasn't misogynist and homophobic enough, so they kicked me out.
there was at some point, and I don't know the like. Imagine I'm like 7 or 8 years old or whatever. I don't know what the
I always
adult
do.
adult. I always act and think like I am too. I don't know what the adult happenings that I don't know what happened, but at some point I wasn't allowed to go back after the first 2 meetings, and my mom said that the Scoutmaster was a weirdo, and no, that is not.
No, your parents, all the parents talked, and they just were like, "The Red Corgi is a weirdo."
She had to church
and they
it
were
up
like,
and,
"Yeah," and they were like, "We don't want him a part of this," and like they kicked you out, and your mom was just trying to make face.
But I mean, that definitely helped. It did not save me from being a huge weirdo throughout childhood.
It might
and
have just been
adolescence
like
and-
she saw what the required buy-in was for kerchiefs and was like, because my daughter's in Girl Scouts, and it's like that shit gets expensive.
Oh, I'm sure.
You know what?
It's
My
a scam.
You see that sash over there? You don't even want to know what that thing costs.
My-
Then you get into the patches and the pins. One of the things I liked the best about the Planet Express Rebellion was when the garbage disposal was talking to Amy,
Yeah.
and everyone's like, "No, don't!" And then you just hear the professor at the end go, "Moron!" Like it's just his sort of blunt retorts sometimes.
well, that
are
like
the best. where
just,
it's just like,
half a beat late after
Yeah.
everybody else.
Yeah.
and it's not like, "No, don't," whatever. It's just like, "You're an idiot."
And Hermes was so concerned about who would compose smooth jazz. Now that all the robots were rebellion.
You know what's weird? I felt like this episode was really short. Like I felt like I turned it on and it was off as soon, like it was over as soon as I started it. But I'm like, I'm looking at my notes and I didn't even write down that many notes, but like there's a lot happens in this episode.
Yeah, it's
For as much
dense.
as I said
Yeah.
there's not a lot of story.
It's well plotted.
Like they haven't even gotten to even just when they have the whole
The reveal?
professor going to like
The
seduce her
reveal?
and everything.
Oh, well,
and we even got
the
there.
reveal?
The reveal.
Well, first of all, yeah, I mean, like the fact that the professor walked out on Mother's Day because he invented QT McWhiskers and she wanted 8 feet tall with
To
lasers.
weaponize it. Now, does QT McWhiskers come back?
No, but I feel like Tom says QT McWhiskers a lot. Do
Don't you
use
have
that
like
lot?
a cat
QT
named that?
McWhiskers?
Yeah, isn't that something you?
Is that your
I feel like
Tinder
that's
handle?
something that's in your just bag of like names that you throw out
Yeah,
for stuff. Isn't
Like
it?
when you're staying at
are
hotels
you
and renting
realizing this as I'm telling
automobiles?
you that, or is
I think
that
so.
okay?
It's a good episode. Like the well plotted. Like halfway through we find out about Hubert, and then like there's a whole romance thing happening, and like
I think you're the first person to call him that on this show.
because I don't know any better.
I like
Yeah.
that. It was kind of like
It
oh,
humanizes him.
well, yeah, it does, and then also like I'm not as much of a fan, but it's like, oh, maybe you're the biggest fan of all. You have this like personal relationship with one of the main characters
Hubert.
that
And like there's this whole like the wheel is reinvented during the
Yeah.
Oh,
second
dude,
act.
that whole. Show us this wheel. Show us the wheel.
Show us this the wheel.
Shouldn't it be
There was a-
round? Shut up! It's my design.
There was a gag in there that I didn't get, and I was wondering if anybody else got it, which was Ruth Gordon had one. He's trying to think what it
Yes.
is.
Okay, I was gonna ask
Ruth
about
Gordon
that too.
had one, like from Harold and Maude. Like,
Yeah.
What is the reference? I don't know. Anyway.
There's the actor from Harold and Maude.
Yeah.
Is that,
The
No,
actress.
that's Bud Cort. She was Maud.
Yeah.
And I mean, she was in a million things. She's in Rosemary's Baby too.
Yes.
I mean,
Wait,
she,
wait,
but
I
but
missed
she
that.
was
Was
just
the
an
joke Ruth
old
Gordon had one?
actress.
Yeah,
that was
that's
a
the
wheel.
line. That's
Oh.
the line. 'Cause
Yeah, I
he's
don't
trying
know.
to think what it's called, and
Man, that's got to be. I bet you some writer had to fight for that joke. Like it was probably 6 other people in the room. Like no one's gonna get that joke. No one's gonna get that
Yeah.
reference. Like no. There will be like, and look, 100% of the 4 people in this room didn't. But like somebody out there. That's got to be the funniest thing they've ever seen on Futurama. Was I can't believe
I
they
mean,
made that Ruth Gordon
I
wheel
think
joke.
it could have been, unless there's a specific Ruth Gordon.
There's got to be something.
reference.
There's got to
But-
be, or
but-
unless it was a super random like.
Yeah, because it could have been like Hume Cronin had one.
Yeah.
maybe that's
Or-
the joke. Because everybody has a car.
or Don
Everybody
Knotts,
has
or
wheels.
whatever.
Maybe that's the joke. It
Yeah.
could be anybody.
So
Like,
if anybody out there gets it, let us know. Oh, Tom's pulling up videos. Those are rims.
we're googling the word
I'm
wheel.
getting there. I'm getting there.
I can't remember if
It's a movie. Wheels 1, starring Butch Martin and Ruth Gordon.
there
Oh,
you go.
all right.
Okay. That's a.
Is that the trailer
that's
or is that a commercial?
Tom?
No, when Tom watches a
Wait.
commercial, it's a Tom-mercial. Is that my joke? Thank you, Tony.
Oh, she was in a Subaru commercial.
A Subaru
This
commercial?
is not referencing the Subaru commercial. There's no way.
So last episode.
There she is.
Oh,
In a
Where-
picture.
wait, where?
Hold on.
Married to a wheel? Oh my God.
Last
That's
episode
what happens when the
we were
Democrats
talking
are in
about
power.
jetpacks and how like when they went to the restaurant, people came in
Yeah.
on jetpacks and they valet parked. On this one, you had people coming out of the tubes
Mm-hmm.
and other people getting out of taxis. Are the tubes supposed to equate to the subway?
The Tubes was an old sci-fi. Oh, okay, I see. Tom's showing us a picture of
Okay,
this commercial.
she's
with
in
her.
a magazine
she's advertising a
commercial.
It's a-
Subaru
yes.
Brat.
She had wheels.
That's
It's really called the Subaru Brat. That's
Yeah.
unbelievable.
Few
The
things
Subaru
in this
Brat?
world.
B-R-A-T?
it was a sort of miniature El Camino, but it had like jump
Yeah.
seats in the bed.
You're aware of this car.
Yeah.
Listen to the advertisement. Few things in the world are built like Ruth Gordon. And a new Subaru Brat.
She was old. That's
What-
the joke,
yeah.
right?
What other bodies combine so impressive features? Like Ruth, the Brat is tough, and it has a personality all of its own. Besides all the styling, the Brat offers outdoor bucket seats and the Halo Twin roof. So Ruth Gordon also offers outdoor bucket seats and a Halo Twin roof. I like it.
With
Most importantly, Ruth and the Brat are built to last. So if you're the if you're the kind of person who appreciates quality
And a young driver.
workmanships, look into Ruth Gordon and the new Subaru Brat, each sold separately.
Not bad.
with a name with the name for a car like Brett, I would have thought they would have gone a different direction of having some young whoever the bratty star was at the time.
Yeah.
Like if it would have been if that car would have come out in the 90s, it would have been who was the girl from 90210?
Shannon Doherty.
Shannon Doherty.
I was just gonna say
wow,
Ruth Brat.
fucking
would-
weird. Well, I guess yeah.
I just Googled Subaru Brat for sale, and they are out there apparently.
What are they running?
Well,
for?
the first
Nothing to
okay. Here's the spread. The first one that comes up is $12,500. The next one that has a regular headline is $600. So somewhere between there.
That's the range.
I mean, if there's anything we should really mourn about the death of print journalism, it's the fact that copywriting ads like that is basically going the way of the dinosaur.
Yeah.
We moved around a lot. My dad worked for Subaru. I was a Subaru brat.
He'd strap me into the seats in the
Nice.
back and get off road. I mean, they were, you know how back in the day, you have to remember this. It might be just a little bit before you guys' time, but when you had the big ass station wagons,
We had one.
there would be the seats in the bed in the back that would fold up so
Yeah,
that you could
you
sit in
sat
the back seat
backwards.
and stare at the cars behind you, which sounds like a bad idea in any sort of rear end
Yeah.
collision. But we would take 14-hour drives on this to go on vacation. Like that
That's
thing.
how you fit most people in a car. And then everyone had to draw straws or try to get not in that back.
no,
seat.
you wanted to be in it because you could sit back there and make faces at people and
You could look at
kind
the
of give
back.
them the finger up
Oh,
under the thing.
I'd get car sick.
Really?
Even when you were 8? Really?
Oh yeah,
Oh,
I
okay.
always get car
Are you
sick.
a car sick guy?
Yeah, if I concentrate anything but
Looking at the horizon?
out front or just the dashboard, then I. get
If I
car
read
sick.
in a car and I've taken
I
many a long
can't
trip,
do
I
that.
cannot. I got maybe about a page in me, and then I just start getting. I don't get any other kind of
That's your
nausea
brain
induced from,
rejecting the knowledge, Rick. That's
Well,
not,
you know what?
that's
To
not
be
car
fair,
sickness.
that happens to me when I'm anywhere else too in reading.
Yeah.
But
You get to about word 350. You're like, fuck. Oh,
the
shit, a
words
headache.
come in and go out just as fast as the car's going.
there's a goo that's coming out of my ear for some reason. That's-
So they
Your nose starts bleeding.
they establish that mom was in love with this man. Now that what I was trying to figure out, and maybe this gets brought up later, is who are Igner and Walter, and what's the third one? They don't even. I mean, I don't even think they name him in this episode. They just say
They've
Walt.
said him
they
all in
say
the- they
Igner.
said him in the-
They said him in
in the-
Fishful of Dollars,
yeah,
but that was 3 months ago that we talked about that episode.
we
I
did
have
this,
no idea.
and then on that episode, we had the same thing, and then whoever was on it was like so and so or whatever.
yeah. So who is their father?
Okay, well, Tom's not giving me the across the table.
Go ahead and say what you need to say.
Well, what I'm gonna, I was gonna look at you, and then we were gonna go. Oh, do we address this?
Is
it
this-
comes up later.
Okay, is this a
and
spoiler
it's
for later?
Yeah,
on?
and it's
All right. But it's not the professor.
Igner,
Do we talk about this?
Igner is the professor and mom's son.
Okay,
Yeah.
so they had
And he's
another.
the stupid
Walt.
one, right?
Walt.
He's,
Walt.
yeah, he's
He's
the
super
but,
stupid, right?
But I don't know if you're aware of this from the episodes you've seen, but Fry is
He's the professor's
great
like
grandfather,
okay,
whatever.
okay.
So
Uncle.
it's this weird
Granduncle.
uncle. So it's this thing of like Fry's an idiot. This kid is an idiot, but for some reason, the professor turned out the way he did. So it actually
It's a-
it if it wasn't for Fry being as stupid as he is, it kind of
Well, would
That's
that make
nice.
Hubert Igner's brother or Walt's brother?
he's a clone.
He's a clone.
not related at all.
Well, he called the professor father.
Well,
yeah, just out of title
admiration
I mean,
and yeah.
I think that's an area of genetic law that's going to need to get hashed out if it hasn't been.
Oh
already.
yeah, when we get there, I don't know. And well, but you know what though? Our title is part of genetic law. I mean, the title would be like
It's less about title.
gene origin
It's less about
provider,
title and
you know
more
what I
about
mean?
transference of property in death and who has rights to what.
Oh yeah, but that'll come up too. Like who, would your clone be included in that? I mean, I would think he or she should be.
Should
But that-
they? Or
we'll
are they
let
just
them figure
are they
that
just
out.
basically your genetic scraps?
My favorite line in this entire episode is from Zoidberg, where they're all like, after the robots rebel and everything, and
Punch in the
Fry's
darkness.
no, Fry's trying to open the can of quantum leak suit.
I didn't notice that. That's great.
Zoidberg cuts it open and he's like, "I'm helpful. I'm having a wonderful time."
Defend the fire. They just collapsed into complete caveman times like immediately.
Yeah.
It was like less than a day when everything just shut down. And really, that my wife really
Likes playing
no
pelvic pinochle.
I not as much as I wish she did. The she's really got like sort of a bent on trying to turn us into doomsday preppers. So like she's like, we need to buy a bunch of water and store it down in the
Did
canning
something
thing."
happen in the last
This is
month?
this is
that,
before all that.
okay.
That's just
So
ramped it up.
Are you working on your bug out bag? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Is that like your malaria net or
Just like a little briefcase with like the things that you would
Yeah.
if like everything's on
oh
fire.
like
you
a
would-
bag if you're bugging
it's
out
all
with?
Yeah.
if you
Yeah.
needed to bug out.
Yep,
I thought
have
you meant like
the
a
entire
bag you put
first-
over yourself to
No,
keep
no.
bugs out.
First through fourth seasons of Futurama in that bag. That's all I need.
In a,
I don't
in a
even
can
have
of
portable
quantum leak.
DVD player.
My favorite little like factoid about like survivalist communities like on the internet
Yeah.
is that they use the phrase "the end of the world as we know it" so often that they've got an acronym which is TIOT-WALKIE. Like you can work it out. Like so if you're on those forums, like that like 9-letter like chunk just is like everywhere.
Everywhere.
It's
Is
like,
that-
because they don't care what is causing it. They just want to worry about what happens after, right?
Can
So
we
that-
use
Yeah.
that anagram to refer to the REM song? Now,
yeah,
too?
probably.
To
We
what
probably
are
have to pay.
It's the
9
end of the
cents per
world as we
download,
know
though.
it.
Don't we have that
the
queued up?
REM
Can we
song.
play it? Like
what anagram?
What he just
We
said.
gotta talk to the
it's
Harry
the
Fox
end- the end
agency
of the world
first.
as we know it, right?
Which he just said that they have an anagram for it because it's.
They don't want to
so-
type it out every time, you know.
Oh, okay. Okay.
What's
That's-
hard to type when you've got like a gas mask on and you're fondling 2 rifles and you got like your pinkies, but the barrels can clack into each other. It gets really.
You know that loot
look.
crate thing where you get the nerd stuff in a box or whatever?
Yes.
You get a couple.
holy
a
shit!
couple
Wait,
guys at work
hang
told me
on.
that
No,
there's a-
wait, stop.
I
Is that a real thing already?
Yes.
Where you could just have the stuff sent to you every month?
There's a company that like does custom like monthly packages of like
Shit.
nerdy
Was that
stuff.
your-
No,
idea?
not of loot crate. I mean like prep crate.
Yeah,
where every
it's
month
already
they
an
say,
idea.
like,
Is what I'm getting to. Is some guys at work told me that, or at least one of them is subscribed to one of those, and he
where you
gets
get
some
like
cool
MREs
Yeah, he
and
gets, like, a
bottled
camel
water
bag
and
a
iodine pills and.
cool multi-tool thing. and
It
like a-
depends on
Wait,
the.
who is it? So when the shit goes down, we know to go rob his house first.
my friend Ryan Smith.
Okay.
That is the most generic name ever.
I-
That's not even his real name. That's a name they sent him from Prep Crate.
Here's your new
There's
passport
something deeply contradictory about a monthly service based on the end of the world.
that you have to
It's
use
sort
your internet enabled phone.
It depends
to
on
sign
the
up
threat
for.
level.
and the credit cards being like zapped a bit monthly, like you know.
You have to carrier pigeon gold coins to a central location in Pueblo,
Exactly.
Colorado, and then they ship it back out via the rail. That's damn it. That would have been a great. I mean, it probably is a great business plan because if you can tap into that paranoia, which
Right.
is, to be fair, probably more sane now than it ever has
Yeah,
been at any
that's true.
point in history. But maybe we could just create a competing one where we combine Loot Crate and prep supplies because novelty will become like the new currency. I mean, you'll have
Each month you get one cyanide pill.
so you have the items that you need for survival, but pretty much those are all consumables.
Yeah.
So aside from the consumables,
All you need
if
is
added
duct
in,
tape
like,
and a knife.
What if it was just like little removable tattoos or something fun like that? You know, like a Cracker
And
Jack
and
thing.
like something from Star Wars. There's got to be something from Star Wars in
Yeah.
somewhere. Like
Just an idea. We'll sit on that.
figurine.
You get a Jar Jar Binks doll.
Every month. The same Jar Jar Binks.
Just to put a timestamp on this, Rogue One came out this week. I didn't see it. Did you guys see it?
No.
No.
I'm not gonna. I want to go. Okay, now we don't have to because nobody saw it.
Is it Blue Apron that like sends
The-
you a
the food
meal
thing
every
where you
day?
get that-
How
yeah.
about that after the end of the world as we know it? Like you're getting like a gourmet meal.
I
Where's
just
that gonna
signed
come
up
from?
for that. Actually,
Oh, did you?
Thursday
Yeah.
I'm getting
Really?
my first week of meals.
You'll have to tell us how it is.
The mom's 3 sons, Igner, Walter, and this other one whose name we can't remember.
Barry.
Why are they just interested in getting her back together with the professor to make her happy and stop the end of the world? Like,
Larry.
What?
Is it
oh,
Larry?
Yeah.
Larry.
okay, so
Larry.
is it they're just like, oh, this is dumb.
That's what I said. It sounded
Or they
like
just
Barry,
want,
but
or
it
they
was
just
Larry.
want to make her happy? Is that why?
Yeah,
they,
because they love her.
okay,
Yeah, they
Even though
really
she's-
do. They're
even though-
super devoted sons. Like
even though
they-
she's like totally abusive.
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
They.
And they traumatize Ignar so much in this episode.
That was one of the funniest parts of like it was. There's a lot of stuff in this episode that I didn't remember. I know I've seen this a lot. There, most of the time when we do one of these and I watch it for that week, it's I'm like, oh yeah, I know what's coming next. This joke, I know this ends, whatever. Still funny, but not like seeing it for like the umpteenth time or whatever. But this one, I forgot a lot of this episode. It was kind of nice. It was like seeing it for like the 5th time instead of the 20th time, and that whole him wearing the bra. There was I don't know if
It's a bra.
yeah. But when I don't remember any of the lines when like he's wearing it and they say one thing and he's like, ugh, and they say another thing later at the end of the scene.
Well,
He's like,
and I'm
"Oh."
looking at my notes and I don't know if it's the right thing or if it's been auto corrected. But he's like, if the glasses man touches mommy,
That and then like every other anytime they anything with where Maurice LaMarche's character would say something about what they need to do, what the scheme is, and then the other 2 brothers would get one or
Really
the other would get
uncomfortable.
uncomfortable about it. When he gets to the cabin,
after the thought of touching that leathery hide makes the tapioca rise in his gullet.
just because I wrote it down. It
What? Go ahead.
no, go ahead.
There's some line about like, oh, they're just 2 elephant skins on the ground. Oh my God.
But even before that, he's like, oh, so many hooks. The first one's somehow hooked back onto it.
Solid joke.
So we're gonna play a game. I brought this bra that Horsch's gonna put on, and then we all have to try to take it off.
It's a bra.
Joke's on you, already wearing one. One
And
of my
it velcros from in front.
one of my notes I just wrote down gross. Did anybody else think that mom looked like Aeon Flux?
I wrote gross old people cartoon sex.
We skipped over one part. There's just a quick little line before they headed out where Leela goes, Leela bring fire?
Oh, I missed that.
Oh, the
like,
computerized map.
Oh yeah.
We've got fire covered. Something.
In the
Oh yeah, that was
Yeah.
yeah.
is it the rustic region of the Bronx or something like
Yeah.
the outer lands?
I also when they got to the cabin, when they gave it was one of the sons. They know what their mom's favorite flower is. Gave him to the professor to daffodils or whatever it was.
Yeah.
And she's like, "Oh, you remember my favorite flower?
He's like,
You remember
"What?
my favorite what? Why does my foot hurt?" After she had been slamming his foot in the those like senile professor moments. Like they're my favorites.
Got a 6-pack of champagne and a funnel.
Oh no, land robots.
Land robots. They actually said and earlier there was a scene during all the carnage where there's 2 like police guys attacking a giant robot with rakes.
Yeah, that was great. That was the
Like
perfect
slapping
because when you find out like the coffee machine and a card is a robot and everything, it's like, well, obviously their weapons are, and all they have is the rakes. Like they're just kind of they're not even really hitting him. They're kind of scraping him a little bit.
Yeah. Okay, so
you and your
Oh.
atomic monsters.
And the one sign that the robots are holding up says you can't hug a child with human arms.
oh yeah, I didn't see that.
okay. I do have a point of contention with the jokes here. The reason Bender revolts from the resistance is that the greeting card says there will be no liquor in the New Republic. But it's been established for several episodes, and the key point of some episodes where the alcohol is necessary to him to actually operate correctly.
Yeah, but they could make
No,
synthetic.
but you watched the episode where he got religious and only had mineral oil instead of alcohol. Oil works just as well, if not more efficiently, but he enjoys the alcohol.
How can
more.
that be possible chemically?
I don't know. You're asking the wrong person. I'm definitely not the.
It's the year 3000. They probably discovered other molecules that are even closer together.
Then how come the anchovy oil was such a big deal? See,
Because-
it's a rabbit hole, guys. That's all I'm saying.
To
Is
be
it's like-
clear, I don't even understand the question. Like, as far as what the problem is, I'm like, I don't know. This chemical, that chemical. Who cares? They're robots.
It's the same reason Wile E. Coyote can run across a cliff until he looks down and then he falls.
The soda machine was going to kill everybody. Who cares what kind of oil or alcohol?
Free
they-
sodas for everyone.
Kill all humans. Free soda for all humans. Oh fuck! What did he say earlier? He was gonna. He came in. He had a threatening line or whatever. And it was when they were going up to the cabin. And he. Oh my god! I can't remember what it was. Did I write it down? I sure didn't. Good job. Dust cakes. I wrote that down.
Hot dry
sex. I got that one too. And then it all the whole charade falls apart. The professor is now kind of despondent after Mother rejects him after finding out, this wasn't true love. You were just trying to scheme me to make the robot stop. And they do. They get a hold of the remote control and they stop the robot rebellion. So, problem solved. But the part that was really wonderful was after she rebuffs the professor, his walk of shame out of the room,
Long, very
that
long.
long, slow, flat-footed slap of his feet on the floor, and he's just got
That was a great sight gag. They use a lot of cartoon nudity for humor in a lot of these, and especially when it's the professor, just because this one with both
he
of them.
doesn't have the 21st century's outdated standards of modesty.
Right.
There's a Christmas episode a few back where the professor and Hermes are sitting around naked playing
like the
robot
whole
chess.
episode,
Yeah.
just like
And they closed the episode with the presser doing like a full Buffalo Bill reveal.
Nice.
I like, it was kind of a quick rush to the end, but the way the professor makes good on his promise to create shouting albino gorillas
Yes.
to proclaim his
capper.
love for
Like,
mom.
From the rooftop.
him saying it. Was funny. Seeing them at the end was just like, I mean, that's
and not just one or two, like it was a whole infestation
Yeah,
of them
yeah.
too. Just,
And I felt
Mom!
I felt really bad for them because they just kept getting
Yeah, that
shocked
was-
in the head.
yeah, me too.
You would think he'd have that down. I mean, he had the hat for Gunter way back when, which maybe he just forgot. He forgets about his inventions here and there.
He's mostly obsessed with creating atomic men, as he pointed out in this episode.
I already
also.
said that. We were all talking at once, but I did say that.
I know,
What
but
is an atomic man?
you'll find out.
Yeah, it comes back. He makes a basketball team of atomic
It's
men.
my favorite episode.
Is it like
Wow.
They do a
radioactive man?
they do a just to
No,
they do a time episode where there's an equation that one or more of the writers, I don't know how math works, but invented and because there's a bunch of brainiac multiple degree having writers on this show, and it's Tom's favorite episode. It's definitely one of my favorites too. It's what do you know the name of that episode offhand?
time keeps on slipping.
Yeah, so
That one's
It
coming
has
out.
the
isn't it?
Harlem Globetrotters.
If you're
coming-
listening to this
who's
Futurama podcast and you get a chance, check out that episode of Futurama.
who has the Harlem Globetrotters are actually like a race of people from a different planet, and they come down to challenge Earth to a basketball game, and the professor invents all his atomic men to
compete
play
with them.
against them, but the way he does it messes everything up. So
Not a surprise.
The only note that I didn't get to mention that I wrote was Morbo's Vermin of the Week.
I wrote that too.
Yeah. Any Morvo.
And-
And it was like kids, like
Yeah.
kids at a
And
school.
the woman's next line is in actual news.
Oh yeah.
And,
And that was another good, like the making fun of the evening
Yeah,
news. Like
totally.
here's the fluff piece, and then here's Speaking of fluff pieces, you write for the opposite of that for Dangerous Minds.
I do.
Which as I understand it, without any research, is a
Michelle
web
Pfeiffer movie.
magazine donated to the 1995.
It's a Michelle Pfeiffer movie, please.
Michelle Pfeiffer movie where she teaches students who apparently have never heard music before and don't know what
Hey, look,
how to.
well, look, I mean,
somebody has to do it.
to be fair, they were ethnic, so that's they didn't have a
was-
privileged upbringing.
No, but Dangerous Mind comes up a lot. At least my friends repost it a lot. So I usually read, like, especially if there's a title that's interesting or whatever. And I know before I met you at Pete's. Was it your birthday? What the hell were we at a
was
party
Brandy's
last summer?
birthday.
Brandy's
birthday.
Yeah.
Pete's Briss.
And
It was a joint occasion. Yeah.
and found that out there, and I was like, oh, cool, I read that. I probably read a bunch of stuff that you've
Probably
written. Today I went through like whatever the most recent ones were, and I saw the Dune coloring book one.
Yep. That
which was
fun.
cool. I didn't know about that. If you get a chance,
So
on
the last one I saw was the Iggy Pop video from 1993.
Right.
Which
With
was
with
awesome.
The East Village. Yep.
Yeah,
The,
it
the
just-
tour. Good
He
stuff.
is.
the what?
It was this Dutch like a Dutch MTV interview segment with Iggy Pop in like 92 or 93. It was when
93.
Brick by Brick came out because they kept flashing
93.
back to that stuff. And he's just giving a tour of his neighborhood in New York. But he's walking
He's Iggy
around.
Pop.
He's just he's the most charming. And even
is,
more
man.
so
I mean,
now.
really,
like,
Even
yeah,
when
he
he's saying how
is.
much he hates cops at the end, he's like, I just hate cops. Like, he's
Yeah.
talking
Yeah.
about Ice-T's cop killer. Like, he's great.
or like when he's in the they go into this bodega or it's a bakery or something. He's like ordering in kind of sheepish Spanish. Then he's like, "Oh, hey man, did you bring your? Do you have your wallet? I don't have any money. I never
So the
leave the
filmmaker-
house
the
with my wallet,
filmmaker has to
man."
pay.
And the thing is, like, he is still totally charming, and it's great because he went from punk avant-garde to like obscurity to like kind of somewhat commercial success to like a commercial adoration to kind of going back to where all right, if you weren't of the age range that caught that moment when he or a fan of like that
he
era
has
of punk
been
whatever.
a cult
I mean,
figure.
he's gone through kind of all the different
I
and he's
joke
still
about
just
this.
like
In the 90s,
he
his
could
al-
easily be a douchebag and he's not.
In the
He's-
90s, his albums were out of print.
Yeah.
Right? And
Yeah.
then Napster happened and the internet happened and like people began
And
to remember
Trainspotting
stuff.
happened.
Trainspotting happened.
Because
so my joke is he
yeah.
went from that to you could put him on a postage stamp, right?
Yeah.
He's everybody's acknowledged like favorite punk uncle. Like everybody loves
Yeah.
him,
And
like,
and he
he's a-
he won.
I
was,
think
he was the dad on
he was known
what was
as
that
dad.
Nickelodeon show
He
that
was Nona Mecklenburg's dad on The Adventures of Pete and Pete.
Wow.
was it Pete and Pete?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
I was thinking it was Harriet the Spy, but it was
Which
the
and
girl
that
from-
was actually in the same time period as that video that you
Maybe.
posted.
Yep.
Wasn't he like Michelle Trachtenberg's?
Yeah.
Okay.
Nona Mecklenburg.
That was
the
her character's name? Okay.
Yeah. It's a. I have no doubt that probably between 1967 and about 1976, he was one of the biggest assholes on the planet. But
Yeah, probably.
But he's
There's-
also. I
He
mean,
was like
he's
a drift,
certainly.
he was like a drifter. I don't know if
Yeah.
he's an
Yeah, I
asshole.
mean,
he's just
he's
like a
certainly
nutty guy.
charismatic. But and if you look at his oeuvre, it's like for every amazing record, and there's a solid dozen of them.
Yeah.
There are like 3 to 4 stinkers, like just unlistenable things. But the ones that are good are so good. It's like, yeah, let him throw
You know what?
spaghetti at the
3
wall
or
and
4
see.
after X amount of decades for some of my favorite artists that have been around.
No, it's like
for
3 and
4
4
or 5.
per decade, but each decade has like
Oh, per
2
decade.
that are
But-
like super good.
But okay, so even that ratio, any of my favorite artists that have been around for more than 1 or 2 decades, that have done 3, 4, 5, 6, it's amazing when they have more than 2 good records.
Yeah.
It's like wow,
and this is all going to get cut out, I'm sure. But like, he's. I finally.
you just
Yeah, Tom's just like,
gestured
what? Huh?
towards Tom like he was like some kind of cutout villain or some kind of like editing. Like
Yeah,
I'm
he's-
sure. I'm sure the man is
Twirling
gonna
his mustache.
He
is
wrote
gonna cut
down
this
like
out.
he
Tom
wrote down an
hates
hour
punk
14.
rock.
He's like, this is where it stops.
We're talking about.
Tom is scratching out Iggy
Was
Pop
Iggy-
on like a
wait,
poster.
First of all, we're talking about the Tom Wilson cartoon Ziggy, right? Because if it is, that's the fact that none of this is getting cut out.
But I got to see him last year, finally.
That's
and he's,
awesome.
I
I
mean,
never
he's
have.
like 70.
Wow.
And
was
like,
that just his tour? Was that the?
it was the one with
Queens of the
Josh
Stone Age?
Homme and the Queens of. It was amazing.
They were on Nerdist last year or a few
Yeah.
months ago or whatever. Josh Homme and Iggy Pop. It was a really good episode.
It was
Iggy Pop tells some good stories of.
But
you know,
even like, I mean, he is just so charming and energetic. Like he's as old as my mom.
He's very genuine, you know. He
Yeah.
doesn't have any airs, you know. And by the way, if you should watch the Jim Jarmusch documentary about these Stooges, which is really good.
Yeah,
there's a Jim Jarmusch documentary about
it
this dude.
just
like
came
a month
out.
or two
Oh,
ago,
really?
Yeah.
Huh.
I can't
Is
wait to
it
see
Good
it.
stuff.
Is it super low key?
It is.
Because if it's not, you know,
I think the entrance to this
it's not
rabbit
low key
hole.
the way you mean. It's,
Yeah.
it's actually kind of weirdly like comical and like there's animated bits. You wouldn't necessarily guess it was Jarmusch who made it, but like he did. It's good.
It's the entryway to that rabbit hole was the fact that you write for Dangerous
That's correct.
Minds. Do you have any other creative pursuits?
First of
that
all,
people can,
Dangerous Minds. What is that for people that don't even know what that is?
It's a website that a guy named Richard Metzger founded a few years ago, and it's basically just a daily like compendium of like crazy shit from the internet and from like rock history and like countercultural stuff and drugs and stuff like that. So we're basically like, you know, the model was like Night Flight, the USA TV series from like the 80s, where it was
Yeah.
like you turn it on, you don't know what the hell you're gonna get, but it's gonna be something pretty cool. And
There's
like,
the
somebody
guy who
found
posts a
that.
lot of weird porn stuff,
Yeah,
and then there'll be like a thing about the Runaways,
right.
and then you know a weird Jerry Lewis interview.
Sex,
or something.
drugs, and rock and roll.
Yeah.
That's our credo. And like countercultural
and
stuff.
at least one Tom Waits article a month, guaranteed.
Guaranteed. We have, you know, Nick Cave.
Yeah,
a year ago,
or Nick
a
Cave.
year ago we were getting abused. We're like another Nick Cave article. But yeah, so it's a pretty fun job. It's like my job to scour the internet and like find crazy shit to bring you. So
Are there any other creative pursuits that you're up to that people can look up on you?
I edit books as my main job. So like I work for publishers doing that. And a while ago I had a blog about movies from the 70s.
Do you take out all the sex scenes in the book? Do you make sure that you edit all those out?
Or
Yeah.
do you get to spice them up?
You have to punch up all the sex scenes in the books.
Actually, it's funny because I've never like edited a book that had a sex scene, but I just got offered like a novel that's some kind of weird Victorian sex pulp or something, erotica. Awesome.
Everything's coming up, Martin.
So, yeah, I had a blog about movies, but it was called Box Office Boffo, but it was sort of it ran for a couple of years. But unlike you guys, I'm not good at audience generation. I'm good at content generation.
Oh,
but
we're
I'm
not
good-
either. We're not even good at audience.
So
guys
attention.
it was just movies from the 70s.
Yeah, it
Like
was-
any movie. Like was there no specific genre?
There
like,
there was actually a logic to it. It was number one movies, like movies that had hit number one in order. Like so, 1970, like going through January, February, like
Oh, wow.
so
each-
whatever
each
had
week?
been. It's complicated because like The Godfather was like number one for like
X amount of-
3 months in a
okay,
row.
all
So
right.
every year you could come up with a list, and then like I would watch them and write a thing about it.
So,
And-
like us, you
I'd
had
like to
planned
see that.
obsolescence.
Exactly,
this,
exactly.
This concept
now-
is going to run
is it?
out.
It's still up, right? You can go
It is
check
up.
it out.
It is. It's called Box Office Boffo. It's a WordPress blog. It's up there somewhere. But
BOFFO.
yep.
Okay.
Yep.
.com, .net, .edu, .ru.
WordPress something. It's out there. You can
It's
find
all.
it.
I think it's WordPress dot whatever or the name dot
Can be,
WordPress
yeah,
or whatever.
It's like boxofficeboffo.wordpress.com. I think it is.
Okay.
But I might have. I don't know if I bought the URL, but so that sort of ran out of gas. I did it for a couple of years, and I did like 80 reviews over some years, and then I stopped. And I was thinking of reviving it and doing a similar concept for the 1980s.
Oh yeah, you should
Ah.
absolutely.
Now that
Yeah.
Stranger Things has rejuvenated everybody's interest in
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
So,
If
So,
you,
like-
I mean, even if like, I mean, I don't know, I don't what I'm like championing you for this, but like I'm just excited about stuff like that. So like, yeah,
Yeah.
you totally should. I mean,
Well,
because
and
I
mean,
would read it. That's neat. Like,
Yeah,
I- you know.
theoretically, you could. Well, there is a column in the Onion that sort of aligns with that. It's not specific to a time period, but they have the We're Number One.
That's right.
column.
That's right.
But I was gonna say you could expand it into, because the '80s there was a lot of cocaine going on, and there's a lot of people were making a lot of content.
Yes.
And you could do like number one movies, you could do number one books, you could do number one music, you could do number
that's
one
tricky.
TV show.
Interesting idea.
Just, so then, I mean, because it would at least give you more options for content.
Very true.
And you could talk about The Cosby Show and how it's been sullied.
I think, the thing I want to really look at is like the number one thing was too constricting, actually.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that happens is that over time, like I mentioned that The Godfather was like number one for months or whatever. Over time, that kept getting shorter. So like every year would have more and more number ones.
Yeah.
So it was a project I could never ever finish. Basically, it was like we're talking about thousands of movies.
Oh.
But so with the 1980s project, I think my idea would be like just choose 150 movies that represent the 80s as we think of them. I'm
Sleepaway
talking now in
Camp.
public about a project that doesn't exist, right? That
So you're
might exist.
copywriting it.
So,
This
yeah.
is if somebody
This
steals
is-
your ID and go, it's
Exactly.
documented
I mean,
here.
plenty of people do it, but yeah. So I mean, there are like there are lots of blogs about lots of movies, and like so this one would just be mine. Nobody can take my the actual writing I would do. So like
No,
I'm
you
not worried
your
about it.
job is to just do it better.
Exactly.
We
That's my
we
goal.
we try and do it worse than everybody else.
I spend 16 hours a week writing the script for this podcast, and no one can perform it very well.
All of every cough.
Kind of in that same vein, before when I said you look at Tom like he was some kind of like editing villain or something, I wrote down some possible names for his villain character. Edicles, the Cut King, and of course Citizen Snips. That's a Futurama.
Okay.
Beautiful. Well, thank you so much for coming. Especially, I mean, like, just so you know, listeners, Martin pulled through on this with maybe about 6 hours of preparation. So it's greatly appreciated, and it's been a blast having you on.
Great being
Yeah,
here.
thanks for this was a great episode.
Thanks for
It was
having
good
me.
to have you
Thanks for
on.
having me. Maybe I'll come back. Something was mentioned. So like
Yeah.
Oh,
if there's
yeah,
especially,
absolutely.
Like, there's
wasn't
There's only
me.
one. There's
I
only
won't
one
like
person that's banned.
Donald Trump.
Is it me?
No.
Donald Trump.
There's only one person that we can't have back on. You can. We'll talk about it off mic. It's because there's the legal thing.
Was it the black guy? I mean,
Is there a gag order?
No,
Are you?
No, it just.
Did you sign a non-disclosure agreement?
It was that one where you Donald Ducked the entire episode where you didn't wear pants.
that's called Winnie Poohing, but I mean,
It depends on whether you grew up in the UK or the US. We can.
It's called Paddington Bear. You wore that raincoat and hat
but you
and
have to
nothing
have
else.
You have to have the hat on.
The galoshes.
We can be reached at slurmcastpod@gmail.com.
Slurmcast.com can get you everywhere.
Yeah, we're in iTunes. Please leave some reviews somewhere.
Yes, reviews, please.
It
and
really.
don't forget to order Blue Apron. Use the discount code Slurmcast.
Yeah.
Your mother.
And after that errors out, there's probably a WTF one or something you can use.
We're also brought to you by
You can
shoe
you can
guns
call us
when you have shoes and you need
When you
a gun
when
really
you have
fast.
shoes and you need
shoe
guns.
guns.
for all of your
Ba-da-ba-ba-da,
doomsday
shoe
prepping
guns.
needs. We can be reached by phone or SMS text messaging at 216-438-1077.
Masochists.
Um,
Do that?
We're gonna
and-
launch a droid soon.
Yeah,
or
and-
a drone soon.
You can also we have a telephone number. You can also buy our podcast on vinyl.
No, and actually, as today, as we're recording this, we hit like a really big download milestone.
17 million.
Not that many, but it's sizable, and we really, really appreciate you people listening and interacting and hopefully enjoying it and not just using us to torture.
I wish you would have
people.
just said 17. We've had more guests than we've had now.
Yeah, that's how it was at the beginning.
So then I was like, oh, you can't bring that sheep in here anyways.